The Kingdom of Lesotho has endorsed Joshua Setipa as the first Lesotho to run for the position of Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations to get a better sense of what this means for Lesotho and possibly the entire SADC region, as well as a look at the chances of Setipa getting elected. We now speak to our correspondent in the Mountain Kingdom, Rapelang Khatebe, and he joins us via our video link. Rapelang, thank you so much for joining us this evening here in SABC News. Of course, I'm sure this is good news for the Kingdom of Lesotho. Perhaps let's start off with you just giving us a background of Joshua Setipa. Who is Joshua Setipa?
Yes, indeed. Joshua Setipa, a Lesotho born from the rural mountains, from the constituency called Semina. Had a hand in politics. He's a political science graduate, went to Brantford University overseas, worked in high powerful positions. I think he is a formidable candidate who stands a chance. Recently was working as UNCTAD UN technology in overseas, but he was also a minister in Lesotho, Minister of Trade. So indeed, I think a formidable candidate for this particular position.
Of course, Rapelang, you say a formidable candidate, but one would ask what makes him the ideal candidate for this position, and what are the prospects of him winning this candidacy?
You're right. I think it's a start of an uphill battle for him to convince the continent. So far, my understanding is that it is Gambia and Tanzania that have raised their hands in interest trying to eye for the same position. But usually in positions like this, they tend to find possibilities of working together, tit for tat, quid pro quo, I think, to some extent. But ultimately, it's always up to the most suitable candidate. And if you look at the profile of Joshua Setipa, really, I think he stands a very good chance. But in situations like this, the best men always get to win the job. But we hope with the lobbying starting, maybe going to South Africa to eye them, because they tend to help each other on interesting voting blogs, on issues of interest, maybe lobbying even to Botswana and other countries that may have support for Lesotho. I think Joshua Setipa would stand a very good opportunity or a good chance, but his profile speaks for himself.
And should he ascend to this position, very important position as well, one would ask, what does this mean then for the people of Lesotho?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's an interesting one. As much as he tends to serve the continent or the region, but it is always a bonus for his home country that he starts to at least show them the benefits that come with the post, to show them that actually they can do. He has already demonstrated, I think, by lobbying and sensitizing young people, especially when it comes to issues of technology, the role that they can play in a broader sphere, in an international sphere, and what it is they can do. So even if it maybe he does not bring anything physically to the table, but his influence and position can actually make others feel more comfortable that they are worth, they can also play in the international sphere. So I think it's a big gain and a big bonus to have a candidate of his stature representing Lesotho in that position.
And at the same time, while he does represent Lesotho, if should he become the Secretary General of the Commonwealth nations, one would also ask, I'm sure the SADC region would also gain somewhat here.
Absolutely correct. If you look at the influence that Africa as a whole is beginning to mount a formidable presence in the international sphere, you can see the quality of the candidates that are emerging in the international sphere. It says Africa is ready for trade. I think I was talking to one diplomat and saying, until Africa understands that it is now time to to not negotiate aid, but to negotiate trade, that Africa can really go a long way to turn its fortunes around. It has a lot to offer, the youngest population, it has resources. I mean, it's time for Africa to really stand up. And I think it's when you start pushing candidates that are highly qualified, highly skilled, and really have the name, the cloud behind themselves, that we can really, I think, go in that international sphere and really play.
And Rapelang, what happens from here onwards? How does the process then unfold?
Yes, you are right. It is now the hard work really starts. I think this is how we start. You start by lobbying, but it is really the responsibility of the country to start selling him. I had a small conversation with Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lejolim, who said they are 100% behind him. They will sell him as much as possible. It says also making deals, lobbying other countries to make sure, if you're looking at Tanzania, there's good mutual relationships in terms of business. The prime ministers are relatively close, but I think it's an opportunity for them now to sit together and say, who is the best candidate that we can push, and possibly one of the countries, Gambia, Tanzania, who have shown interest, may decide to pull back in exchange for maybe something else, to say, provided Lesotho can also push us when we have a particular candidate who's much more suitable. But the big job now starts with the heads of states, who will be the one who will be doing the hard sell. But we are told and informed that Lesotho is ready and willing to sell this particular candidate.
And lastly, when can we expect the announcement to take place? I know that you're saying that it's a process and it's still going to take some time where nations need to lobby, but when can we expect the final announcement for the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations?
It is quite a laborious process. Honestly, there hasn't been any suggestions. This is at the very early stages. We are yet to receive statements. We will try and talk to the candidate himself. We'll try and talk to Lesotho government to see how the process unfolds. But these are quite early stages. This is a process that usually takes time. I really don't want to comment. I have not seen the timelines as how they run. This is news that just came up a few hours, but we'll definitely be doing the follow-up on the story.
Rapelang, it's a pleasure talking to you here on SABC News. That is Rapelang Khatebe. He is SABC News correspondent in Lesotho, just giving us an insight there in terms of that news just in this evening. Of course, Joshua Setipa from the Lesotho mountain of the Kingdom of Lesotho, rather. Of course, there being a candidate for that position of Secretary General for the Commonwealth of Nations.